So with all this in mind, this kind of brings us to the tool that I wanted to share with you, and the tool is called 3 Good Things. Now, this is because we are hardwired as human beings to remember the negative. You know, you have a bad day at work, we remember the negative stuff. There's a reason for that. In fact, if we look at the data, it's pretty compelling. On sleep deprivation and what we remember, it's in terms of our memories, it's really compelling. If we take a busy neonatal nurse and we deprive him or her of sleep for one night, so you're up for 35 hours, right? Up all day, up all night, up all day the next day. Now at the end of your shift on day 2, your ability to remember stuff from the first day, having not slept in between day 1 and day 2, is reduced by 40%. So 40% reduction in our ability to form new memories. But wait, if you look at the type of memory, that plays a role in whether or not you remember it. Positive memories have an over 50% reduction in our ability to retain them with a night of sleep deprivation. Neutral memories, almost 40%. But negative memories, somebody's nasty and rude and mean and cruel and unusual to you, you work in one of those festering cesspools, well, you're going to remember all the details of all those interactions because it sticks to you. That NS is for not statistically significant if it's a negative memory, right? So you're distracted, you're tired, you're overloaded, but you still remember all the bad stuff, and it's hard to remember the good stuff. The good stuff slips away. Why is that? Because we're hardwired to remember the negative. Think about that for a second. How many of you have a difficult time remembering good jokes over the course of your life? It's tricky. Why? Because there's no biological or evolutionary reason that you would remember good jokes, because that's a positive thing and it's not going to save your butt if it takes up room in your brain. However, if you've ever heard a rattlesnake rattle, and for those of you in Mexico and in Texas, I would imagine many of you have heard a rattlesnake rattle, you'll never forget that. You'll be in your late 80s, full-bore dementia, and you'll hear you'll think, oh, snap, that's not good, right? You won't remember the names of your children, but you'll think, oh, man, that sounds bad, partly because the negative stuff can save your butt, and that's why it takes up all that extra room in your brain. We're hardwired to remember the negative. Think about this for a second. Our genes have some tricky mechanisms at work for them to keep themselves in the gene pool. So we have worry and anxiety about the future. So if we worry about the future, we can avoid certain things and we can survive longer. If we ruminate and we just kind of really worry about the past and we kind of tease it and we obsess about why we did something wrong, that can prevent us from doing that wrong thing again. So that'll keep us alive a little bit longer. But rumination and worry and anxiety, those things will help us to survive, but they will never help us to thrive. So we are hardwired to remember the negative. And we use all that worry at the expense of the present. At the present moment, you're sitting there in this room listening to this webinar, but nobody is jabbing hot metal spikes under your fingernails. And yet we're not thankful for that. I doubt anyone sitting in Mexico or there in Houston right now has a toothache right now. But if you had a toothache, it would be all you can think about. So Thich Nhat Hanh, the Vietnamese monk, often says we are rarely thankful for the non-toothache. So think about just for a moment what a relief it is that no one is breaking your finger. So the present is actually relatively benign, but we fill it up with negative thoughts about the future and about the past, and this is part of what brings us down into burnout and into depression. But there's a way that you can short-circuit that. That's the point. We can short-circuit that if we use 3 good things, and this is going to help with our sleep quality as well. 3 good things is not the Dr. Seuss 3 good things. In fact, these are my 4 good things. It's my son Parker, who's 10, and Simon, who's 7, and Cassidy, who's 4, and Tatum, who just turned 2 last week. That's my gratuitous family photo shot. No, 3 good things is really about what we can do to utilize sleep in a way that will short-circuit our tendency to focus on the negative. Our memories are tricky. Good memories are like Teflon, and they slip away. Bad memories are like Velcro or static cling socks, and they just stick to us. They especially stick to us when you're tired. 3 good things is a tool that retrains your brain so that you can remember the good things and your role in bringing those good things about. So if we look at this from the validation study, this is Marty Seligman. He was the president of the American Psychological Association for almost 10 years. He's a brilliant psychologist and an excellent researcher. And he devised 3 good things to basically say, at the end of your day, after dinner, but before your head hits the pillow, within 2 hours of sleep onset, that's the important thing. If you're one of these people that goes to bed at 9:30, well, first of all, we hate you. And second of all, then for you it's between 7:30 and 9:30 that you should do 3 good things. But most of us are going to bed a little bit later than that. So technically between 10 and 12 p.m. or your last 2 hours of wakefulness is when you should do 3 good things, preferably right before your head hits the pillow. You just say, what are 3 things that went well today, and what was my role in bringing them about? And that way, right before you go into sleep, right, you're preloading your prefrontal cortex for those positive patterns and positive things that happened during that day, and you actually are thinking about them, and you're feeding off of that when you go into your REM sleep. In fact, it is significantly associated with better mood, better sleep quality. If your spouse snoring wakes you up, you're able to get back to sleep more quickly. If you have to go pee in the middle of the night, you fall back asleep more quickly. Have you ever had a really good dream and you're desperately trying to fall back asleep to get back into that dream? That's what happens when you do 3 good things before you fall asleep. It helps your kids. If your kids have night terrors at night, or they're having nightmares, do 3 good things with them before they go to bed. It will help to keep them in bed. So you didn't think you'd get parenting tips in this webinar, but a lot of this stuff kind of flows together. Now, the way 3 good things works, and I'll give you this example, is if you do this every night for 2 weeks, the effects are not significantly different from Prozac. In the original study that Seligman did, published in 2005, using randomized clinical trial, they actually showed that doing it for 1 week had these effects that were not significantly different from Prozac. So at 6 months out, after doing it for just 1 week, their happiness scores were significantly higher, their depression symptoms were significantly lower, and all of this through 3 good things. I'll put up some example 3 good things. You can see how we grouped them under the pillars that we cover in our resilience work that Jochen and I are involved with: self-awareness, mindfulness, sense of purpose and meaning, our self-care, and our relationships. Those are some examples of 3 good things from study participants. What we're asking you to do is just to think to yourself, what are 3 things that happened today that went well? And what was my role in bringing those good things about? That's all you have to do. The closer you do it to bedtime, the better. The way it looks here, let me show you. The way it looks here is the exercise works if you get to reflect on the positive and your role bringing it about. Important to say what went well and why. It's been called the 3 blessings exercise. It's been called the 3 good things exercise. It's been called the what went well and why exercise. All of them, you can Google it and YouTube it under all of those. You have to do it 14 days to get the maximum benefit. You can stop then, or you can continue. Many people, once you do it for 2 weeks, have no problem doing it kind of ad nauseum. Beyond that, if you ever stop at the end of a day with a spouse or a loved one to say, what was your high point and low point today, just stop doing that and say, what are 3 things that went well today and why? That's all you have to do. The best time is right before sleep onset. If you're going to share it with others or talk to others about it, especially if others in your NICU are doing it, say, hey, did you do your 3 good things? Or something goes well for them, and you say, hey, that could be one of your 3 good things. You can reinforce this and give this some good PR in your unit. Remember to, whenever possible, use those resilience pillars in your 3 good things about relationships or self-care or self-awareness. Those are great prompts for 3 good things. And beware of transitions. You might ask yourself, why don't more people do this if this is just like Prozac? Because it's hard to do it all for an entire week. Many people would do it once or twice and then they stop. And where it's most difficult is when you transition from weekdays to weekends and from weekends to weekdays. So Friday to Saturday transitions are really bad, and Sunday to Monday transitions, people just stop doing it and then they don't go back. So it's really, you have to form a habit, and to do it for 2 full weeks is incredible. You do it the first time, it's pretty straightforward. Once you've done it 5 times, you think, wow, I'm getting good at this. And you start noticing during your day things that you might count that evening in your log of 3 good things. It's important that you support each other when you're doing it, that you take this seriously. This is a powerful psychological intervention. If you let it be, it can help you tremendously. In fact, by taking the 50 most severe subjects in their study, Seligman showed that you can go from your happiness, a kind of percentile. Your happiness goes from the 15th percentile to the 50th, right? You go from really not well to right about average on your happiness just by using 3 good things. There's no pharmacological intervention here whatsoever. The Center for Epidemiological Studies depression scale here shows that you go from severe depression to mild or moderate depression just by doing 3 good things. This is as powerful and in many cases more powerful than Prozac, because SSRIs, as you know, work really well for severe depression, but most of us don't have severe depression. They're severe depressives, they can't drive a car, they can't hold down a job. Most of us have mild to moderate depression, and what we know about SSRIs is that they're not significantly better than placebos. They work really well for severe depressives, but not mild or moderate. Three Good Things works for severe, mild, moderate, and non-depressives. That's why we also measure happiness, because we can see that the people who started off without depression but they were happy, they got even happier through the course of doing Three Good Things. Now, with that, I'd just like to leave you with this Dr. Seuss quote: "Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not." That's from the Lorax. This is about using Three Good Things as one tool to move you in the direction, and hopefully your unit in the direction of being able to notice the positive. As Barbara Fredrickson, a psychologist at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, would say, the negative screams at you, but the positive only whispers. So we have to be more tuned into and aware of those positive things. That's what Three Good Things does. It short circuits our natural tendency to focus on the negative. This is powerful. Use it on your spouse. Use it on your friends. Share it with people. The more into it, the more evangelical you get about it, the better off it'll be. Please do it for 2 weeks and look at the benefits. And with that, I'd like to hand it